Hi, everybody, and welcome to this very dark Full Circle Magic Q&A with Adam Wilber. You may know him as a master magician or a creator or even the project manager of Ellusionist.com website. But without further ado, I pass you over to Adam. Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
Good, good. How you guys doing? Great to be here. I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day here in Vermont, so no complaints.
Fantastic. Well, sorry about all the technical issues that I had in starting this Q&A, and thank you, for bearing with me for all of those. We do appreciate it. But first of all, we'd like to kick off with asking, you got into magic at a very young age, 6. Is that right?
Yeah, when I was 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. My memory is a bit cloudy, but a good friend of mine showed me the Vanishing Silk and did it to me. I went over to his house. We played with these little figures, and that was our normal. I would go over and we play with little figurines, and then once he said, "Hey, put those away and let me show you something," and he made a small silk disappear, and that was it. I said to him, "Do it again, but roll your sleeves up," and he did it. He rolled his sleeves up and he did it again, and that was it. I was done. So I learned it. This is not the right way to do this, but I actually stole the book out of a local bookshop, which is the wrong thing to do. But I'll be honest, that's what happened. I was about 8 or 9, and I put it in my mom's thing and walked away. And then I showed my father. I showed him the trick. I had the TT, and that was it. When I showed this to my dad and it fooled him, I had, when you're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old and you show something to your parents that you can see changes their perspective, it makes a difference in your life, and that made the difference to me to stick through to where I am today. So, yeah, simple silk vanish at 6. I think it was 6, maybe 7, when I showed my dad and I looked at him, and I could see that look of wonder and astonishment. I was hooked, and that was it.
Yeah. I guess when you're that age and you can fool your parents, that's a pretty powerful effect on yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot when you can fool somebody, and being younger, so young that you don't comprehend the things that we take for granted. Social interactions, simple things that are just day-to-day life. But when you can fool the person that has basically given you all of the tools you need in life, and you show them something that they can't understand, that's, you can't really put that into words. And that sparked the interest of deception, which is really what we do. Right? Polite deception. We're not thieves. We're not con men, but deceiving people to the point where they go, "Hey, that was pretty cool. Maybe there's a little bit more to this life than I know." And at 6 years old, man, you fool your dad or your mom or whoever the person you look up to, that's something really, really special. And I think I'm lucky because I got bit by that. I know a lot of people that say, "I didn't get into magic till I was 20 or 30, and it's a means of income and this and that." And, I think you miss the point if that's what you're going for. I think there is a moment, as a magician, there's a moment that we offer people. If you hear a great song, the first time you hear a great song that is your favorite song, you get that moment. It's the same moment. It's a moment of you can't explain. But it's a moment of bliss. It sounds corny and cliche, but it really is. It's a moment of what just happened. And I see it all the time. I see Facebook videos, and I see songs, and even advertisements. There are certain ones where you get that moment, and when you get the moment, you'll know what it is. And I think good magic, that's what that moment should be, is that I don't know how to explain it. It was something special. And that's what happened when I showed my dad the silk pin.
Yes.
Right? He'd never seen it. He's a smart guy. He's an engineer mind. His mind is very engineer based. But he saw this. He couldn't explain it. And that's from his. Imagine you being a father of someone who's 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
and you see him do something
I have an
you can't
8-year-old.
explain. Imagine if your 8-year-old walked up to you and did something to you, and you went, I mean, you're in magic, so it's a bit different, but imagine he did something
Yeah.
you couldn't explain, and he did it in his little 8-year-old sweet, innocent way. That's something special, and I think we can take that and bring that into corporate events and birthday shows and everything else. You can give people that moment, which they couldn't
Hmm.
buy. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that. That's what really intrigued me about magic. That if I was 6 to 8 years old and could fool my father, the guy that taught me everything in life, there's something
Yes.
special. So that was my hook. That's what got me into it.
So you had your cathartic moment very early on in your career.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really cool. And obviously, since then, you've gone from strength to strength, and you've gone from learning obviously other people's magic, as we all start, I believe, and into becoming a master magician and creating your own effects as well. Tell me a bit about that journey, and when you were younger in your career. I know a lot of the magicians that we talk to on the group and things like that. They have difficulty sometimes in garnering the reactions that they really want to get from their spectators. The reactions that you talked about, like you had with your father. Those real wow moments.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any problem with that when you were younger? When you started performing for strangers, or has it always been easy to get good reactions for you?
It's an interesting question. A reaction is what it is. If you do a phenomenal piece of magic for one person, the reaction will be different than if you do it for 30 corporate guys in a room, and that's good. It should be different. But if it, when you start out and your big thing is I'm not getting the reactions that I want, or people aren't latching onto this the way that I want them to, you have to step back and everyone says this. You have to look at what you're trying to present. What do you want to be as a performer? Do you want to be the cool hip guy with tattoos? Do you want to be the soft-spoken but super intellectual guy? You have to kind of look at your performance to each situation. Is it for one person? Is it for a group of people? And then how do you get the best impact from that? When I perform magic, I'm very transparent, and I don't really care. I don't make up my full-time living today off performing magic. When I made my full-time living, the only thing I was concerned about was getting rebooked, or being the guy that everyone talked about at the venue that made it special. So that booking agent, or the event coordinator or meeting planner, would say, hey, I had 15 people come up to me and they all said that magician was great. I don't even care. I mean, I would love for them to remember my name, but they're not going to. So all I cared about was the moment
Sure.
that they said, you made this event special, right? So to get an impact, I think if you try too hard to make something impactful, if you try so hard for, let's say, Cannibal Cards or Immaculate Connection, if you try so much to make that moment impactful, it's going. People read through that and they go, he's trying too hard, So
Hmm.
I guess to answer your question, no, of course it wasn't always. When I showed my dad something and it fooled him, that was the spark. But I went through 10 years of getting beat up in high school. Not beat up physically because I'm a bigger guy, but beat up emotionally of, oh, you're doing another card trick, or I saw that double lift, or I saw this, or whatever. And you fight through it. It's like anything. It's like anything that you do. If you care about it, you just fight through it. You're going to get beat down. You're going to get caught. You're going to get busted. You're not always going to have that moment. But when you do give that moment to one or a group of people, it changes everything. And you go, oh, I got them. They see where I'm coming from. I'm not selling them on it. I just want them to understand what I do is for them as opposed to for me. If it's just for me, you know, I'll do the flourishing and I'll talk about me and this and that, but we're performance artists. It's like a musician.
Yeah.
If you play a song that's so crazy but you only love it, well, that's great for you, right? But you have to do a trick that, I have tricks that I love from some of the world best sleight of hand artists. I love them. I would never perform them to someone who paid me because they won't love them. And you have to know that divide, right? You have to know what works for people who are not magicians, and then you have to know what works for the people who you hang out with that are magicians that want to see this and that. So, you know, to grasp that moment, you know, Paul Harris says it best. It's the moment of astonishment.
Yes.
If you can harness that moment and use it for your benefit, either to get booked more, you know, I know this is all very much theory spoken. So the way I would sum it up is that you have to look at your effects, perform them at least 20 times to real people. And by real people, I mean people that are not in the know, not magicians. They don't go to the forums, just real people. Perform it 20 times. If you get 15 good reactions and they go, whoa, how did you do that? As opposed to, oh, that was neat, that was cute, that was clever. You know that, wait, what just happened is the real deal. That's the moment that you should strive for, right? Because then you're giving them something they're going to take forever. So, you know, fooling my father was a fluke. That was what got me into it. Some people get magic sets. Some people see Copperfield on TV or Blaine. You know, for me, it was just I fooled somebody that I thought knew everything. And that is what intrigued me. Now, just fooling people is not right. You don't want to just fool people. That's terrible. You know, I could go, here's a Sudoku, solve it. Oh, you couldn't solve it? Haha, I made that. You're stupid. You know, you have to entertain them. You have to let them know.
Yeah.
This is, everything I say here is just the way I look at magic, and it's probably so far from what's right, but I don't care. It's me. It's my life. It's what I look at magic. The way I look at magic is it's 30 seconds to an hour of taking somebody away from their everyday. When all of us go home and we sit down at night before we close our eyes, you have a million things racing through your head. Now, I know we have a lot of younger younger-based fans that maybe don't get this, but when you get a bit older and you have a kid or a real job or a full-time job, there's so much in your mind at all times. That moment, for me, my son is turning 2. The moment when I can pick him up and he looks at me and does this, you know, it's a personal thing, but we get this moment. That, to me, is worth all the money in the world. That's a moment that takes me away from everything else in the world. Any issue with Ellusionist, any problem with a vendor, any manufacturing issue, any private all that is gone in that one moment. I think that's what good magic is. It takes a random spectator and gives them that moment of, I don't care what's going on outside of my life. This is the moment, just like a good song does. A great song, if you love that type of music, if you hear that song, will take you away from every concern, issue, problem in your life and put you in a totally different place. And even if it's only for 15 seconds, you have a little bit of lyric or one small piece of magic, that 15 seconds that takes you away, I believe that's what a true moment of astonishment is. And that's what I strive for. I just want to make people have a good time, forget about what's going on, and when I leave, they're going back to their regular life. You know, they have all the issues, that's fine. But they're going to remember me and my magic as, it was so good, I didn't even remember my issues. You know, I didn't remember that I have a deadline tomorrow. I was enthralled, I was engulfed in this moment. And Adam Wilber is the one that gave me that moment. Or, you know, ZZ Top, or, you know, Method Man, or whoever, they gave me that moment. And if you can do that to someone, you have a lifelong customer. I gave my dad that moment when I was 6 years old. You know, it's my dad, so we have a different relationship, but that moment, he still talks about today. And that means something to me. That's a super special thing that as magicians and artists, we take for granted. We are allowed to give people a moment of disassociation from their life, and in a super pretty, here it is, I'm offering this to you kind of way. I don't want to sound too corny, but I really, really believe that we have, if you're a professional and if you, or not even, but if you go out there and work, you have something that's probably more powerful than you think. If you do a great ambitious card, yeah, everyone does it, but that's something powerful to give someone that's not in the know, that's not in magic. That's probably more powerful than you know, so harness it and kind of grasp it. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I think that's
okay. Yes, now I'd certainly agree with you, and it's an ideal for all of us really to strive towards that, and I certainly know where you're coming from. What advice would you give those young and less experienced magicians in approaching people, cold? So, for example, say you're doing walk around magic at a wedding or somewhere where there's dining and that. How would you recommend that someone builds rapport with a table, going in, with a group of strangers that they don't know, and building that rapport to the point where those people want to see your magic? And not see, I've seen a lot of magicians just walk up to tables and say, "Can I show you a magic trick?" To a group of people that are in mid-conversation things, and that always tends to end badly. So, what advice would you give people on that?
First things first, never walk up to someone and say, "Can I show you a magic trick?" That's advice number one. And I only know that because of trial and error. But, if I'm going to be very honest here, know your material. Be good enough that you can go out there and do it. Walking up to a group at any venue, restaurants are extremely hard because they're paying. They're sitting down and paying to eat. That's what they're there for. I'm here to eat. You don't know what's going on. Maybe they just got fired. Maybe they're getting a divorce. Maybe their son just won first prize in their track marathon. You don't know, and it's tough. You can't go to a restaurant and say everyone here is here to have a good time. If you're walking into a wedding, you can pretty much guarantee everyone that showed up is there to have a good time, and you're just adding to that. You're probably, if you're good, going above that. So it's a tough question because it depends on the venue you're in. If you're asking me if you're getting paid from a wedding planner to show up at a wedding and show people magic, close up, walk around magic, well then I would say the way you approach them is the way I do, and that's the only way I could say is because that works for me. I walk up and I go, I'm dressed well. I look at the dominant figure in the group, which is usually the one talking, or you sit back for a few seconds and realize who the dominant person is, and you look them right in the eyes and go, "Hey, what's your name, man?" You go, "Hey, I'm Peter." "Hey, I'm Adam." And I put my hand out. That's it. That's how I approach. I walk up, I say, "Hey, what's your name?" You can't, if I walk up and say, "Hey, you want to see a magic trick?" It's very instinctive for people to go, "No, my son is not here. I don't want to see a magic trick." And that's not right or wrong. That's just instinctive. And when you perform a lot, you'll get that. People go, they assume magic is for kids. But so you have to beat that speculation. You have to go, hey, you have to be on their level. And I'm 33 years old, and I can be on their level. I can walk up to anyone and say, "Hey, what's your name, man?" And they're just going, "Hey, this guy wants to meet me. Is he a weirdo or not?" Once I shake their hand, then it goes directly into, and it's a line I say all the time, and people think it doesn't work, but hey, can I show you mind if I show you guys something you'll never forget? How do you say no to that, right? If you're at a wedding and you're with your 4 closest friends and some random dude walks up and says, "Hey, what's your name?" "Oh, well, is this the wedding coordinator event?" They're going to answer, "Okay, so my name's Peter." And then the next thing he says is, do you mind if I show you something you'll never forget? How do you say no to that? There's no, I mean, you could. I've been doing it a long time. I've never had anyone say, no, I don't want to see anything I will never forget. I'm not saying, can I show you a card trick? Hi, I'm the hired help. My name's Adam. You know, I don't like all that.
Yeah.
I like to just be honest and say, hey, let me show you something crazy, something you'll never forget. You can't say no to that. And I'm having a good time. I enjoy being there. So they should enjoy being there. So if you ask them an open-ended question, what response can they give you? I mean, it could be funny and go, well, you know, I saw something I never forgot last night. But then you play off that. It's impossible to be turned down when you offer something that is almost irrefusable. You can't say, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see something special. I don't want to see something. And don't say magical. You know, this is, again, just me. I can't give the right or wrong answer, but for me, what works and what has worked is you walk up and you let them know what you do. And you do it in a way that they can't say no, which is, hey, I'm Adam. What's your name? Not I'm Adam, I'm the magician, because there's that stereotype. But yes. I'm Adam. What's your name? Oh, Peter. Great to meet you. Hey, you guys mind if I show you something you'll never forget? Mm-hmm. How do you say no? And if there's a silence, which there will be, you go, no, I know, I'm not a creep. No, but seriously, this is pretty cool. And I go right into it, you know? So it's just being comfortable in your own skin. And a lot of us get into magic because we're introverted. You know, we don't want to be out there. But when you start doing it, you know, the reason we get into it is because we want to be out there. So I would say let your personality go through, you know, shine through, and give them a question they can't say no to.
That sounds like very sound advice. Very sound advice, Adam. Chris Gage wants to know, still staying with table and walk around magic, how many effects should you do at a table for walk around?
Restaurant or like wedding, you know?
It's unspecified, but let's go with restaurant.
Well, restaurant is clear. You have to have an effect you can get in and out of within 15 seconds. And if it is, you walk up to a table and say, hey, and spring cards, then you're in and out, right? You never know. Restaurants are tricky, man. Restaurants are very tricky because they are not there to be entertained. They're there to eat. And a lot of times people go to eat after a funeral, after they got laid off, after their wife left them. There's a lot of people in restaurants that just don't want to see it. They're not there for that. And, you know, through performing, you'll know the right and the wrong tables. But even if it's the right table, it's a anniversary, and you walk up and, oh, great, we'd love to see some magic. And you go into your first set. As soon as that food comes, you're secondary. So it's hard to be secondary to a plate of food, right? With what we do, we study our whole lives, we practice. So that's tough. You know, I would say it's a hard question to answer. It's got to be from venue to venue. You know, I have my couple tricks that I go to when I walk up to anyone at all times. And I don't want to sound like I'm plugging my stuff, but a lot of the stuff I do is my own stuff. The backup plan, it leads perfectly to my style, and that's not my effect. That's a Vernon effect that Bill Malone redid, that I took that and made different. But it's something that works for me. So you have to do something that you can get in and out very quickly, but still establish you as a professional, regardless of the situation, especially with restaurant magic. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone, okay, great, nice to meet you. I build my rapport, and then I go into my trick, and the food comes. Yeah. And that's it. And you're done. Because you're not more important than the food that they're paying for. I promise you.
No. It's important also not to, if you're working in a restaurant, not to annoy the waiting staff or the manager. You don't want to. You're there to facilitate things, to make the time go better for the people, but not to hold things up. You don't want to hold up the flow.
Exactly. So, if a server comes out with a plate of food, you're gone. That's it. And it's not, oh, thank you for your time, shaking it. You leave. And that's the interesting thing about restaurant work. You're not going to get rich off it. you have steady income, that's great, but it's to hand your cards out, to get known. The people who buy food at restaurants have money for other things, so know your market, know your market. If you're walking a corporate event and you're doing walk around, you have the time to give them 3 minutes of an introduction and building your character and showing them you know what you're doing because
Yeah.
they're there. But if you're at a restaurant and that plate comes out, you're gone. And if you're not, you won't be at that restaurant for long. Their main goal of hiring you is to turn more tables and make more money. It's the grind. It's like working a lot for basically the future. So a tough question, but I would say, do whatever the situation, is built around. So if it's a restaurant, you got to have something that is visual, some flash paper. The simplest thing in the world. You walk up to someone, try and do this here. You literally walk up, have something palmed. Let's say I got a little e-cigarette, and then you light it. If you walk up to a table and say, did someone drop a piece of paper? I know it's cliche, but no one, boom, light it, flash paper goes up, produce something. Now say the restaurant or the maitre d' comes over and gives them their food, or the waiter, I'm sorry. You're done. You've just shown them something amazing in, 7 seconds. If they don't, if there's 5 minutes before, then you go into your set. And your set should be simple. Ambitious card. Yeah, everyone hates it. But you can leave at any time. Okay, great. And it came to the top again. Thank you very much. Enjoy your food.
Yes.
So it's situational. I guess the long-winded answer is that it's situational.
Fair enough. It's a good answer. We've got some more questions from the floor, and one of the questions, moving away from performing, and you touched on effects and developing your own effects. What thought processes do you go through when developing a new effect?
It's I hear that a lot, and I get asked that a lot. I don't even know. The only way I can look at it is I take my current effect that I'm working on. I saw something from a friend of mine, this cubed thing, right? So let me show you this. It's a playing card that is...
I've seen those, yes, I know what you mean.
So I saw this, and I said, I want to make an effect out of this. There's something really cool and magical about this. That's a small card. Mm-hmm. Michael Close's Frog Prince. Same idea. When I first saw that, I went, "Oh, it's There's something magical there." So when I go about an effect, currently I'm working on an effect that makes this special and memorable. It's a folded card, So I analyze it. I go, well, could I fold that in real time? No, I can't.
No.
Could I take a card and switch it out? Of course. Yeah, I could do that. So, it's anything, man. I mean, I wrote a book called Creative Magic, and a lot of that book is literally what I do to get inspired. And there's weird, stupid stuff on there, but that's works for me. I go to Kickstarter all the time. And I'll spend 2 hours a day on Kickstarter and look at stuff that people are inventing and go, oh, and that inspires me. Or I will, a lot of people say read a book or go to a movie or whatever. When I'm creating an effect, it's very rare that I go, this is what I want to happen. I want this to do this and do this. It's more often that I'll see something and go, there's something magical in that. And a lot of times it's not something like this. This is a magic, product. And let me plug him real quick because he is a good buddy of mine. But there it is, cubed. It's brilliant. I mean, we're taking a card and we're doing something special with it. It's a souvenir, right? You give that away. It's just like Paul Harris's Immaculate Connection. It's something different than what people know with a playing card. There's something special there. So when I see something, first time I saw an e-cigarette, I'm working on a routine right now that's an anti-smoking routine, where you take the cigarette and boom, it turns into an e-cigarette and then back and forth. But that's because I saw this technology or this thing that was different, and I want to create from that. I think there's something magical in this. As cliche, as corny as that may sound, this is a cigarette that doesn't hurt you, supposedly, right? But there's something magic in that. So let's build on that. Or on Kickstarter, I just saw this thing, which is an AR drone. It's a flying object. There's something magical about that. There's a magnetic company that developed a thing where you could have a chessboard floating around in midair. You could have people come over and play chess. That's magical. So when I create an effect, I basically take my everyday life, and when something sparks me, I pull my phone out, and I have a little notepad on my phone, ideas. And I just write them down. And then once a month, on the 15th of every month, I go through my ideas for that month. And I might have 30, I might have 2, but I go through them. And the ones that stand out, I highlight and I work on. And that's my next 30 days to the next ideas. And the ones that are great, this has been on my idea list for the last 3 months. And I still haven't developed it. I'm not happy. I have things, but not what I'm happy with. Mm-hmm. So, again, long-winded answer, I would say write everything down, man. Write it down. When you get an idea and go, that could be cool, write it down in the same place. So all of your thoughts are in one place. iPhones, smartphones are the best. And then go.
I must admit, I use my smartphone. I've got a Windows one, so I use OneNote, but obviously your mileage may vary. But
I think, never underestimate an idea, because the biggest things that have happened were ideas that were blow-offs that grew into something else,
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. Who inspires you in magic? Either magicians, other magicians, or people that aren't magicians. Who inspires, but give you inspiration that helps with your magic?
Well, working with Ellusionist, I see a lot of magic. So I would say the underground, unheard of people inspire me greatly. The guys that submit tricks to me, or submit tricks to us, or the guys that are timid and go, well, I'm not sure if this is good. Those are usually the ones that inspire me the most. Mm-hmm. The performers, the well-known ones, David Williamson, Bill Malone, Oz Perlman. Oz Perlman is phenomenal, a real worker. Bill Abbott, the guys that do it and know and build their routines around actual performance, as opposed to this will fool people to buy into what I'm doing, or this will fool my magician friends. I'm inspired by the guys that are out there doing it, and they're doing it with extreme technical skill. Like I said, David Williamson, Bill Malone. If you ever sat down at a table with these guys, they would fry you. I don't care how good you think you are with a deck of cards. David Williamson, Bill Malone would blow your brains out. But they're also, besides all that, they would never do what they're going to blow your brains out with to a regular person. They'll do it to magicians. To regular people, best entertainment. I mean, you won't stop laughing. That's what inspires me. People who get kind of grasp magic as what it is. You can sit around with a bunch of magicians, do your thing, or you can get paid and entertain laymen, or I hate the word layman. I think it's goofy, but the general public, the not in the know public, you can entertain them. I love that mix. So David Williamson, Bill Malone, Oz Perlman inspires me because he's just, the way he looks at magic and business is spot on. So people like that. Tommy Wonder, Vernon, all that stuff, of course. Marlowe, yes, I'm inspired by them, but that's my history. That's my history of magic. I'm inspired by the people who are today. Justin Willman, Justin Flom, Kalen Morelli. These guys are new, fresh. and they do beautiful magic. So that's what inspires me. What makes magic relevant and cool today? I still love the history. I would never say, oh, learn magic from Justin Willman and Justin Flom and these guys. Learn the history, but present it today. If that makes sense.
Well, it certainly makes sense to me. And I think for myself, I just try and learn as much as I can from as many different people because, I think that's important. But I'm talking about learning. Obviously, you're the project manager on Ellusionist.com. Can you tell us a bit about that and how you got into that and what a project manager does?
Sure. Ellusionist.com. The way my in for Ellusionist was, they used to have a thing called Gold Wednesday, and it was submit a trick or whatever the contest was for that Wednesday, you would win a Gold Arcane, one of our most rare decks. And at that time, I had a good job. I didn't really care, but I love magic. I lived in Vermont. I was doing my own little shows, but wasn't really known. And I saw everyone. I wanted to be known. I wanted to, let me get my name out there. Let me do a little thing here and there. So I put a few videos together, and I won like 3 or 4 contests in a row. Mm-hmm. So the guy who Jason Brumbelow, was on staff, and I reached out. Actually, so I have an effect called Earbuds that I put out years ago, and I submitted that for a contest. After I had won a few in a row, I submitted that for a contest and didn't win. Didn't win first, second, or third prize. And, to me, I was like, really? This is a pretty significant trick. Like, this is legit. It's a good trick. I've been doing it a long time. But I didn't write or anything. And then Jake Steele, a buddy of mine, who's our marketing guy, wrote to me and said, hey, the reason we didn't submit that is we want to produce it as a trick. So that I got a trick out with Ellusionist by submitting it through a contest, which was great. And then, talking with the guys and just kind of working my way, just proving my worth and saying, hey, this is what I can offer. Here's some other stuff. Here's some other stuff. Here's some other stuff. And sending some emails here and there and finding out. It's like any business. How do you want to get in touch with, if you want to book corporate shows, if you want to book birthday shows, how do you get in touch with the person that's going to get you there? You figure it out. Okay, well, I can't book it. My vice president has to sign off. Well, then I call the vice president, whatever. And I kind of worked my way into Ellusionist that way. I just, politely, if you're over demanding, people, if you push too much, instinctively people do this. Stop pushing, man. Stop pushing. I'm coming back. But if you're honest and genuine, and hey, here's this, and have something to offer, I think that's the way I got my foot in the door. And then, spoke with Brad and just worked my way in there. So I think it was just a passion for magic, a determination, and following through, doing something to put yourself in the forefront of whoever you're looking to get involved with in their minds. Right now, I just moved from Vermont to New Hampshire, and I'm rebuilding a great clientele base that I had. And the key to it is putting yourself in the forefront of their mind. No one wants to be sold on something. But if you can give them something of value or something interesting, they're going to keep looking at you. And they're going to go, oh, yeah, Adam keeps sending me something every Monday. Maybe it's Happy Monday, and it's a joke. Maybe it's Intriguing Tuesday, and it's something very visual that you found on YouTube. But staying in contact is the way I kind of got to where I am. And then once you're there, you have to, you have to prove your worth, and you have to show what you've brought is worth the value. So.
Sure, absolutely. I think keeping current and also keeping that communication flow, which is a lot easier, obviously, in the modern world, but it's harder as well because people often rely on a lot of text or email communication, which can often obviously be misinterpreted. Talking of which, just so we don't get misinterpreted, we got 5 minutes. I've got 5 minutes left, unfortunately. So we need to try and wrap through the last few things if we can. If that's cool with you, Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah, whatever you need, buddy.
Cool. The next question, which comes from Fred from James, is what do you love? What is your most favorite effect that you, or the effect you're most proud of that you've produced yourself? I know you mentioned earbuds, and I know you've got a few other things out there, obviously.
The effect that I'm most proud of, I would probably have to say earbuds. Just because that was my first understanding that I can create magic. You know, it was a very weird way it came about. I was sitting in a room, and I was in a bad place, man. You know, I was just not in a happy place. And I picked myself up from that by saying, let me try this. And it worked. And it kind of excelled me to the point where I am today. So I would say earbuds, probably. You know, as cliched as it's the first effect, but the most meaningful effect I'm most proud of, I would say, is earbuds. You know, all my projects I'm proud of. I think they're good, but if I had to give a one-word simple answer, it would be earbuds. That, you know, it's time consuming, and you got to sit down, you got to split a card, you got to do all this, and I get people emailing all the time. Oh, it's cool, but you got to do all that. Yeah, man, we're magicians. We're offering people a moment of wonder that they've never seen before. You don't think you have to sit down and do some arts and crafts and create that moment? And if you don't think that's it, then this isn't field for you, man. I mean, do something else. Yeah, you can do Ambitious, which is a deck of cards with a signed card, but you know, getting into things and playing with them and manipulating, that's the reason we should be in Magic. We should play, man. We're here to play. I have tons of these things. I bought like 30 of these little mini Rubik's Cubes. I've never solved one in my life. I have no idea how to. But if they're sitting on my desk every day, I play with them. And I guarantee I will come up with something magical with this because I get to play with it. You know, so
it's very cool. I recently learned how to do Rubik's Cube myself. I'm a late bloomer. But
well, good for. I mean, you know, the algorithms and the memory and all that. I just want to be able to go, hey, mix it up as much as you want. They mix it. I'll tell you guys right now. Here's a dream effect I'm working on. If you guys have a solution, holler. But I want to show them a small Rubik's Cube. I love this because it's portable. I can vanish it. I can produce it. Whatever. Right? It's small. But let them mix it as much as they want. Oh, it's hard. It's a pain in the ass, right? That's what it is. Yeah. They should call it the pain in the ass cube instead of the Rubik's Cube because no one can solve it. And then you just boop, toss it in the air and hand it to them. Or as you show it's not mixed, the ideal effect, show all sides and go, well, you try. And then I throw it to them, and when they catch it, it's solved. You know?
Wow.
You know, to me, that'd
be pretty cool.
We get to play. I sit in my office and I play, man. So why not, you know, go balls out. Go.
Absolutely. I know you're a very passionate person, particularly when it comes to magic. What are your thoughts on YouTube videos, particularly those that expose magic effects?
You know, I have my dilemmas with it. I have people that expose my effects. You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think it's wrong. You know, you shouldn't sell someone's work that isn't your own. But you know, it gets people to know what we do, and I don't know. It's a touchy subject. I think if you're a real person, if you're a good person, and I said to you, hey, I'm selling I always go back to music because I think
Yeah.
here's my album. I love it. Can you promote it so I can sell my album? And people go, sure, you're a good friend of mine. I'll promote it so people will buy your album. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that, right? But the reality of it is they don't make squat. I'll censor but they don't make a dime off selling albums. They sell their albums to get known so they can make money touring.
Sure.
And it's the same as magicians, man. If I have 100,000 people showing other people how earbuds works, all right, I just won't do it at my paid gigs. But that's all publicity for me. If you Google my name, you'll see earbuds 100,000 times. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't. YouTube guys, there's some amazing YouTube guys that do great magic, and they do original magic. So for that, YouTube is phenomenal. Especially with what I do is we hunt talent. I can search YouTube, and I have to go through a bunch of weeds to get to the flower, but I can find a guy that goes, hey, this is all original. Boom. We contact him. We make a deal. The guys that go, hey, this is my effect, where I take an earphone or I take a box and boom, 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 and they're stealing other people's things, that's on them, man. Karma's a bitch. Excuse my French, but karma's a bitch, man. It's going to come back to you. If you think the way you're going to get famous is by ripping off other people's things, not crediting, and saying, oh, it's okay for me to give it away for free, that's on you, man. It's going to come back to you, and at the end of the day, you're basically cheating the system. You're not putting in the work that everyone else is. Don't think you're getting anywhere. You might have 100,000 subscribers. You're not going to get anywhere. Not in this art form. You might get somewhere on YouTube and have a bunch of people following you. That's going to dry up, man. When all that material you're stealing runs out, who are you? You got to check who you are. So, I look at YouTube as what it is. It's a way for people to rip off, get known, and be creative. So take it and use it how you want. We're not going to change it. We're not turning the clock back. So it is what it is, man. It's a pain in the ass, but it's also a tool. And if you use it correctly, it's great. If you use it wrong, like I said, karma's a bitch.
Okay, Adam, last question. Your nickname, the Worker, where did it come from, and how did it start?
Well, the Worker was getting on with Ellusionist. My nickname used to be Magic Man in my community. It was the guy that did magic. Magic Man. Hey, there's magic. I had a girlfriend dated and that literally their family didn't know my name. They knew me as Magic Man. And that's just purely because that's what they knew me as. Every time they saw me, I did magic. The Worker came around because when I met the E-team and had gotten involved with Pete, and Pete's a good friend of mine. Peter McKinnon's our our production manager. They were blown away by the fact that anywhere we went, I was looking for people I could perform to. We went out to dinner. While we're waiting for the dinner, I'm looking for people I could perform magic to. While we're at a bar and we're all showing each other whose pass is better or whose double lift is better, I don't give it, forget that. I'm looking for people, oh, that's a great, I'm just off. I'm doing my thing, and I'm working. And I'm working the crowd up into loving magic. And that's where the Worker came from, was the fact that no matter where I am, I'm working. And work to me is play, right? If you're going to work for a living, make it something you want to do. Make it playful. So everywhere I go, I perform magic. And that's where the Worker came from, was that my guys, my core team, what the fuck? We're sitting down at lunch and you're gonna go perform Ambitious for these guys or whatever. He's always working. It doesn't mean working as far as getting paid gigs. As of now, I'm rebuilding my clientele base. I've moved from state to state. I'm not working as much as I want to be, but every time I go out to the post office, the grocery store, whatever, I'm working. And that's just showing people magic, spreading what I do and what we all do. Giving someone, and who cares if they like it or not? You're just making an interaction with. It's like shaking someone's hand and going, hey, how you doing today? Go up to someone in a grocery store. You're waiting in line. Tap them on the shoulder. Hey, I'm Adam. shake their hand and go, "How you doing today?" And build off of it. You know, if you can do that, you're a worker. You know, you're just working. You're showing people what you are and who you are, and that's where the worker came from. You know, going out to any situation and working the crowd, and saying, "Hey, this is what I do. I want to share this with you. I think it's great." So that's where the worker came from.
Well, thank you, and thank you for working it here with us tonight, Adam. We've
Thank
really
you guys
enjoyed
for having me.
having you, and you know, I know that you're a fantastic supporter of magic in general, which is obviously what we're trying to do. It's our mission statement. Special thanks before we go to... Sorry?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say special thanks to Laura for setting up this Q&A and all the other Q&As that we do, our talent coordinator, and also to all of our admin team, without which we wouldn't be able to do this. So thanks to everyone, but special thanks obviously to our guest tonight, Adam Wilber.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks for everyone tuning in, and likewise, man, I appreciate everything Laura and you guys do. It's awesome, you know. It's this kind of community that really lets people know what magic's about. So I appreciate that wholeheartedly, and anytime you guys want me back or have any issues or questions, just let me know. But thank you to everyone behind the scenes that's making this happen. It's a pretty special thing you guys are doing. So
thank you, Adam. That's very kind of you to say so. Coming up next week, guys, we've got our very own Ben Cardell, who's being interviewed by our also very own Peter Turner, both admins, obviously, of our group, which will be a very exciting one. But until next time, I'm going to say goodbye and good night. Thank you.